This is a setup analysis for the Porsche 911 GT1 at Donington Park GP circuit under these racing conditions. If you're interested in AI, you're going to want to watch this one. Did you just see that McLaren off the line? If you missed it, rewind it. I've never seen anything like it. Welcome back to the 27. First, I should say this build is good for patch 1120. Some slight adjustments were needed to account for the tire changes, but it was minor. The front seemed to have a little bit more bite on corner entry, and I think it's safe to assume this will be the way for most cars, especially under added loading like braking. Nevertheless, how can I put this lightly? Some tracks and cars don't work well together in the single-player context. As you know, I'm putting builds together for the GT1 centered around the GT1 Championship mode. With the custom Championship mode pending, it may not matter soon, but you're probably still going to come across Donington against AI in a GT1, right? And I must say, I kind of reached a boiling point trying to get a decent race here. Part of it is the Porsche's fault too, as I was struggling with the setup for a while. But before we get into that, let's talk about AI for a moment. 1120 brought some really great changes about the raceability of AI, but there's still work to be done. What I'm about to say is going to come across as criticism. I believe it comes from the right place, but it's germane to the frustrations I had here, and it has to do with the way the AI cars perform on a per class and track basis. A lot of this is individual fixers for these cars and tracks, so you can imagine this is a daunting task. There was a video in the forums posted the other day where someone was putting out how slow the AI was off the line. It was in the DTMs, if I can recall, and we've all seen this in game. The GT3 seemed to be somewhat sorted, but the GT1s here at Donington, there's a ways to go yet. You saw the start. Pay attention to the cornering exits too. As I get up the field, the cars become rocket ships. Outside of the issues with the starts, most of the time you can pretty easily figure out an AI setting for a track that will be lap time competitive for you, but there are a couple of major reasons why this isn't enough. The first one is career or championship mode. If you set the AI for one race and have competitive lap times, you might get to the next weekend or whatever, and the AI are destroying you, and the week after that you are destroying them. It breaks the immersion and the challenge. It turns the AI racing into a gimmick. Many sim racing titles struggle with this, some more than others. The other problem that is equally important, in my opinion, is as lap time consistency, and that's a problem that's highlighted in this race you're watching right here, and that is AI consistency per sector or per corner. On a lot of tracks, players are better than the AI in braking zones. That's normal, or at least we're used to it. So to make up for this, the AI have their corner exits tuned up a little bit. Fine. It's noticeable and you can deal with it, but the nature of the track itself changes things too, especially if the AI are particularly slow in what you would consider a non-passing zone where they just park the bus. Here at Donington GP, it's turn 4, the old hairpin, then the exit of McLean's at turn 7. If you're carrying any speed through these two places and there is an AI in front of you, you have to hit the brakes or at least know ahead of time they will be slow so you can anticipate it. If you're going to do a full immersion career or championship racing experience, hell or high water style, it's going to catch you completely off guard and you're going to wreck. In other places, they're poking their nose and tapping you from behind on this track. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. When you get a race in, though, it's great. So I guess my ultimate point is the AI still have room for improvement on a car track basis. What I'm looking for is consistency so that when I'm getting better and faster as I grow with AMS2, I can actually use the AI as a barometer of sorts. Right now, you can't quite do that yet. Anyway, the Porsche here at Donington GP is good for 1120. After a minor reworking, it ended up being smooth and consistent as I like to drive. The traffic, though, revealed some gremlins, especially if you're trying to push hard, and that had a lot to do with the elevation changes in the GT1. Like the braking zone after Schwartz and the acceleration zone at Coppice, God help you if you had to make any minor steering corrections due to traffic in those spots. The fact that GT1s have gobs of horsepower doesn't help. It's not like a Jetta G40 at all. For these two spots, I had to move the brake bias forward and added rear wing. It helped massively with consistency, one at the grip limits. I had a break-in philosophy with the default setups with regards to the springs and ARBs. I decided to go with a slightly stiffer spring package, but softer ARBs. The front end had way too much bite on entry, and it made the rear way too uncomfortable throughout the corner, and it was sliding around and overheating. The stiffer springs added a degree of consistency in corner entry, as did the slow dampers in the front. Mid-corner was nice, and the corner exits were more stable with the added extra wing. For the differential, I continued to lock it up compared to the defaults. In particular here, I felt like a more open differential. The Porsche would snap a little bit mid-corner, which I absolutely hated. So I tinkered with it and wound up with 48 coast. The 60 power protects the rears too, as on corner exit. If it unlocks, it just tears the rears to shreds with 500 horsepower. So that's a good way to keep the rear tire temps down. Finally, I completely reworked the gearing as I was not happy with the defaults. I tried to just work with the final drive. I also tried using 5 gears, but it just couldn't keep up with the AI on acceleration. So I went ahead and matched the whole gearing system for Donington and the Porsche's power band, which is around 6,800 RPMs to the rev limiter max. So that's the Porsche GT1 at Donington GP. We'll be back to GT3s next week and plenty of stuff to look forward to. We'll be doing a default setup analysis for the Omega 99, both Group C cars, and I plan to include telemetry, so stay tuned. After that, we're going to start dabbling with the M1 Pro car bit, which will include a full before and after telemetry demo or analysis for Brands Hatch. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Take care.